Hello and welcome everyone to New Moon 2021, or Cycle 4, also known as Blood Moon number 1. So by the end of today's stream, we will be having our newest Moon Master. So this will be the last stream for this Blood Moon series. But before we start, I'm just going to briefly explain what is New Moon and explain more about Blood Moon. So New Moon is a weekly round-robin tournament series where people can play each other throughout the week, and it usually lasts for 4 weeks, and then we take a short break. However, the 4th week of New Moon is called Blood Moon, and this is different because it's divided into a 2-week series, or 3 in this case. Where the first week is like any normal New Moon, but at the end we take the results from the matches from the first week and we use these results to make a bracket stage, and based on the seeds and how the tournament's organized, and we have the bracket stage, and then by the end we have the winner as Moon Master. Okay, so this is going to be the second stream for the bracket stage. So I'm going to be explaining where we got to in the bracket and what we might be expecting for this stream. Okay, so this is how the bracket looks on winner's side so far. So we have seen most of these matches already, and we will be heading right off from winners finals basically. So this winners finals is going to be between Symes and Player Zero, but before we start, going to be introducing our second commentator for this match, which is Nerith. Hello Nerith.
Hello Player Zero. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. Alright, well let's head right into the setups for our first match for the day, which is Symes vs Player Zero.
Okay, so this is a Falzar versus Gregar matchup. Player Zero is running the standard Falzar setup here that has Rush, Beat, Custom 8, a little bit of attack stats, and just 1400 HP. Symes on their hand, his Gregar setup is 2200 HP, really chunky Gregar setup with attack stats and Custom 6, Super Armor and Undershirt, but no Navitas programs like Rush or Beat. And G-code coming from Player Zero, so he's got access to uninstall, Groundman, SP, all the good stuff that comes in G-code, like a Dragon combo, the Bubble Star, and machine guns. And he's taking Element Man SP, so there is going to be the potential for a lot of damage to come out if Symes finds himself in the wrong cross here. Meteor Knuckle as well. It's going to be a check against Slash Cross, I should say. Really, there's a decent mix of chips here, decent coverage. I would say the weakness here is that there isn't much going on in terms of potential wind chips, so Symes should feel fairly comfortable going into Erase Cross against only a single wind rack and no other wind chips at all coming out from Player Zero. So that would be a safe offensive cross for Symes.
Yeah, so the difference between these setups, you can see that Symes has the much higher HP and obviously the offensive capabilities that come with Gregar crosses. So ideally he would want to start early, try to get in the extra damage, then maybe go into Beast Out, especially seeing how almost all of his chips are null elements, so he can chip charge them to do extra damage.
Yeah, definitely going to Beast, especially with Player Zero not running fast gauges So Symes with 2 slow gauges and one of them being regged, he's just going to be able to put it into slow gauge right off the bat and basically do a gamble where he can go into an offensive cross and kind of just guess at what player zero's elemental coverage will be like that turn, and if he can protect his cross for that turn, typically a guard player will get a lot of damage out in a single slow gauge turn.
Yeah, so as you're mentioning, the play for Symes is going to be trying to guess how the turn looks from my end, and then seeing which elemental coverage, because in my folder G-Code especially has a lot of different decrossing options for Gregar, Bubble Stars for the Heat, Wood Dragon, and then that one Wood Dragon that you mentioned.
And the Groundman SP and Meteor Knuckle for Flash Cross. And of course the Elementman SP also covers it quite a bit. So really the worst case for Symes would be getting knocked out of his offensive crosses at the start of each turn and not getting value out of them. He really wants to think about the likely elemental coverage from player 0 for each turn and make sure he doesn't get caught off guard. And as I said before, Erase Cross does look quite safe for him, so it seems like he might have a fairly reliable offensive cross to go into, and Erase Cross is one of the more potent offensive crosses in Gregar.
Alright, well let's head into our first match, see how it plays out. And yeah, something to keep in mind for a lot of these matches is that they were most of them they were played already in the round robin stage. So both of these players have played each other already, and we'll see how they try to adapt and moving forward in the match. And yeah, this is going to be a double VOD match, so
yeah, I believe it's Symes on the left and player 0 on the right. You can't really mistake them with their HP values, and you can see Symes here choosing to not go into a cross at all. So he's gonna play the waiting game here. He sees that you go into Dust. Doesn't even bother with the slow gauge this turn. This is really just him trying to feel you out here.
now we can see Symes already has both of these slow gauges, which isn't really ideal. He will probably try to take one for a chip charge next turn, especially seeing how he's starting with the first one going into a race. Whereas on player 0's side, we saw that he is keeping the hand into the next turn, which I believe was an anti-damage and another chip as well. I don't remember the other one.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the last chip was, but Symes playing this very cautiously here, not even going into a cross on the first turn. And then Erase Cross this turn, so after he's seen you lock in Dust, he goes into the counter, of course.
Yeah, and the second chip was Life Aura, so that makes a bit more sense for why I decided to keep on my hand. Unfortunately, Symes does have that erasement, but has to basically throw away into nothing.
There's 0 just cracking and breaking some panels here. Nothing else to do this turn, really, other than try to score some hits on Symes, because with the Life Aura here, Symes has no threat against player 0.
And now we know that that wasn't an anti-damage, that was an anti-navi on Symes' hand, so
yeah, so this might be a difficult turn for player 0. Symes has a lot of defense loaded up, but he can also chip charge it if he doesn't feel any threat coming from player 0. I believe he just has 4 null chips to charge here. He should be feeling quite confident because of the cross advantage of Erase going up against Dust. If he lands an Erase Tail, it will instantly just destroy the life aura, and the second Erase Tail will destroy the trap and do double damage.
Ooh, the
Okay,
anti-navi, yeah.
So the anti-navi gets triggered.
Ooh, Race Cross taking the first life aura, but then Barrier 200 comes out straight away afterwards. And then it gets taken away as well. Ooh.
Ooh, so very nice defensive play from player 0 here. So unfortunately he did get hit by both Erase Tails, didn't manage to waste one of them by dodging it, but both of them were absorbed by the Life Aura and then the Barrier 200, so at the very least he did not take the double damage and decross. And then managing to land the Reflector there at the very end too, seeing this how Symes was out of chips and was just going to try to bust her.
Symes, on the other hand, now is going to take his Life Aura, Anti-Damage, and Holy Panel, which will give him Holy Barrier, but that will go against Tomahawk Cross with I believe, Wood Dragon, so that might be able to clear it straight away. And does connect, and hits as well. Ooh, the Hate Dragon was used a bit too soon though. These Stellars are starting to add up quite a bit of damage, 220 I believe for each one.
Yeah, and there's still one more turn of Beast out here. You can see the just the raw damage that a Gregar Beast cross can put out here, specifically the Erase Tails coming from Erase Beast. Even though player 0 played very well that first turn of Beast out, managed to block all of the offensive moves coming out from Symes here. Just one turn is knocking player 0 down quite a bit.
And now there is the uninstall in hand, but in this position uninstall will almost literally not do anything because Symes already has super armor inherently through Beast out, and he doesn't have any other Navicus pieces to lose, so it would be useful for after the Beast out ends, so it looks like I will end up going to that. Ooh, Judgment coming down, which will remove, I believe, the Invis used at the end of turn. Now Symes chip charging again. Grandman SP coming down, bringing Symes HP down, but there is still the HP ticking down. Ooh, counter hit connects, but was a bit too late. See if Buster Shots are enough to finish off, and it looks like they were. Taking us into game 2. Now we're starting game 2 again. Looks like Symes is going straight into a race cross this time. But we also see very similar start to the first game with Life Aura on player 0 side. Starting with an area grab as well, so that can be risky for Symes if his movement doesn't quite line up because of these conveyor belts.
Yeah, definitely the conveyor panels here are going to be a potential problem.
Bug fix and slow gauge coming out. Oh, and it looks like the area grab is used, and now Symes is basically locked into 2 panels. we'll be going to be seeing Meteor Knuckles into Neo Vary and in Tengu Cross as well, so that might end up landing a lock-in for charge shots. Let's see how Symes end up playing around it.
Oh! Oh no, so I think player 0 missed the timing window there to counter that anti-damage with the Meteor Knuckles. And unfortunately, with the area returned, the Neo variable is also going to be very difficult to land here. It would have to be used as the Sonic Boom. The double Life Sword would have potentially done double damage there, so...
Yeah, unfortunately there with that Meteor Knuckles, I tried to do the TFC, but my inputs didn't go through. Maybe I reacted a bit too late, so fortunately sometimes happens.
Yeah, it definitely sucks when that happens. But as a result, Symes managing to squeeze through this turn with not too much of a loss. He's also got his recoveries in hand already, so he's probably feeling quite safe.
And he is going into Slash Cross against Tengu Cross, so this might be a very painful turn, especially given that Slash Cross is one of the highest DPSs in Gregar crosses. Ooh, avoiding both of these.
Ooh, Symes not managing to line up for the Erase Man here.
Air grab exchange.
Oh. So this neutralizes the Slash Cross for the rest of this turn. Symes does have these extra area grabs here. 2 more coming up from his folder, so...
Ooh, at least on my side, I do have 2 recovery 300s in hand and Judgment, which is going to be very nice, especially since that looks like Symes is staying in Slash Cross. Though maybe in this position going into a different cross other than Tengu might be a safer play, especially since Meteor Knuckles was already used. Ooh, and the unfortunate TFC. Invis and recoveries are able to delay it a bit, but unfortunately there is still quite a bit of damage coming out. And the second recovery coming out from Symes. Ooh, looks like Symes is going to go for that Beast Out's Q4, especially seeing how much area he has. This can potentially be massive damage. Whereas on player 0 side, we do see a decent amount of defense, 2 anti-damages and barrier 200 as well, so... Both sides just taking time, thinking through the turn. There's a lot of things that could go. Ooh, Symes going for that Element Man SP instead.
Yeah, maybe trying to fish your defense out first before using the Kernel Force.
And at this point, I was looking at that ground cross and it looks like I decided to go for it. So let's see if that D cross does connect. Ooh, that was an anti-navi. So that Raceman will go into that barrier to 100, which will take it off. Symes is playing it very careful, trying to avoid getting decrossed, but it does happen either way. Ooh, I think Symes didn't manage to use his Navi chip at the end of that turn, or maybe he held onto it. I don't think he would have any real reason to hold on to Elementsman SP.
Yeah, I believe that one, the Element SP just ended up being tossed here.
Yeah.
Can't imagine Symes going into a slow gauge turn with only the Element Man SP. And with player 0 at 660 HP, it looks like Symes is still feeling confident.
Ooh.
It's just going to be a slow gauge turn with area advantage here for Symes.
Yeah, so I believe that was a missed input as well. Meant to go forward there, trying to remove that barrier to the life aura with Heat Dragon. Unfortunately, didn't quite go through.
So the area returns to neutral, but Charge Cross does hit three panels deep, so player 0 has to be careful here not to lose his anti-damage.
Yeah, and now we're looking at player 0's hand, we see barely any defense. Reflector 200 is the only effective defense there, though Grandman SP could break some panels, maybe try to minimize the damage taken from Q-Force.
Yeah, so this was a trade-off Symes was willing to make. Because player 0 ended up having those rough turns against Slash Cross, his HP is low enough that Symes didn't feel pressured to use a high area Kernel Force. Instead, he's just going to go for this more reliable Kernel Force, especially seeing now that some of player 0's defenses are depleted. So it's going to be +1.
Ooh, Flashbomb coming down. The anti-damage was extended by a machine gun. I believe there was a bit of lag happening. I'm not really sure what the issue is. Then the reflector coming down will block some hits, but that was still quite a bit of damage.
Ooh, and Symes was not very willing to step off that panel because of it being cracked by the ground man at SP earlier.
Ooh,
now that it's broken,
yeah.
He has limited access of his Buster here. He's gonna have to find some other way to finish player 0 off.
But Symes does have that massive HP lead, and looks like on my hand I'm just down to the last 3 chips with uninstalled machine gun and an Elementman SP, so not too many options.
Yeah, we're really seeing the 2800 effective HP from Symes here coming into play. And on top of it, he's gonna drop this Sanctuary, so there's a pretty big hurdle for player 0 here.
Yeah, and Symes going with very heavy defense.
Oh no. That looks like it was a missed input. Should have been Element Grass.
Yeah. Though fortunately this wasn't as bad as some of the previous misinput, because that did deny potential chip charges from Symes coming out. Though Symes does have that final chip to chip charge, and it would do enough damage, which will finish off that second game into the match.
Yeah, well played to both players there. Player 0 had some very nice defensive play in some of those turns. And unfortunately, just a one turn where if you don't cross out properly or you take that double damage from your opponent, it can swing the match quite heavily in the Gregar player's favor, simply because of the HP discrepancy. And I do believe player 0 did not have access to. Actually, no. Player 0 did have the recovery 300s in J, but even with that, just the amount of damage that a Gregar beast can put out is quite terrifying.
Yeah, I think there were a few missed inputs due to lag or otherwise, because sometimes under pressure this was winners finals match, so maybe a bit of lag, a bit of pressure playing in as well. So these few key moments that we saw, for example, that Judgment or Meteor Knuckles not going down at the right time, they end up changing the match outcome very greatly.
Yeah, definitely. Missing certain key inputs can just completely swing a match. We've seen it happen many times in the past. But yeah, well played again. And
And yeah,
Player Zero, how do you feel about that match actually?
yeah, so obviously things didn't quite go as well as I would have liked. I think in terms of the matchup, it was pretty even matchup. Symes does have very high HP, but with basically the right sequence or getting the right D crosses, as we've talked about before the match, it can be pretty advantageous. Though I do think I can be a bit low on damage, so missing out on some of my key chips was very painful potentially.
Yeah,
But yeah,
definitely. And yeah, so I do want to praise Player Zero for that. I am quite impressed with the defensive play on a lot of those turns, but also I want to praise Symes for
yeah,
really the um, the way he approached the cross game and
mm,
identified the basically the weak point in the matchup that he could exploit, which was really the lack of wind chips available to player zero, just that one wind rack. So I feel like he really effectively played around it and played to his build strengths.
yeah, definitely. That was a good match. All right. So now, before we head into our next match, just going to give a brief update on how the bracket looked. So that was the winners finals match, which means that player zero is going to be heading into losers finals. Which let's take a look at how that looks now. Okay, so looking at the brackets right now, so we can see that we're already mostly done. Previous matches were played during last week's stream, and now we will be heading into the match between Bitmuffin and Thiago, and we're going to be seeing who's going to face Player Zero for that losers bracket finals. But before we head into the next match, we're going to be switching. For Sam's going to be joining on commentary. Alright, so these are the setups for our next match. Take it off, guys.
So obviously next match, Bitmuffin versus Thiago, like Player Zero mentioned. It is another Falzar versus Gregor matchup here, and again, Thiago, Thiago has the same setup as Symes actually. I think it's exactly the same. It's really just that it's an HP 500 and HP 300 instead of 3 HP 400s in the Navicust. So it is the chunk Gregor Navicust build. And also running the double recovery 300s. So this is a very, very similar setup in terms of the Navicust, in terms of the overall game plan, double slow gauge as well. So you can really see that this is I would say this is a fairly standard Gregor playstyle here. I guess the key difference is that Diego is running the B code Navi, SP Navi chips. So Blastman SP and Protoman SP. It makes it very, very difficult for Falzar players to play around it because of potential 500 plus damage decross. But really extremely similar setup. And on Bitmuffin's side, we have the A code coming out. I believe this was the not quite Master Cross setup. So yeah, the Elic Pulse is Elic Pulse 2 instead of Elic Pulse 3, and so as a result, there is no Master Cross. It's a false alarm. And Bitmuffin is running Judgman SP and Spoutman SP. And really, it's a fairly standard A code. There's the attack plus 30 and White Capsule. The White Capsule to make Aqua Needle 3 duty multi-hits appropriately. And also the attack plus 30 potentially going onto Risky Honey 3 and amplifying the damage by quite a lot. And Bitmuffin's Navicust is the standard Thalzar Navicust, as mentioned last time, that player 0 is using. So it is the attack 4, custom 8. It's got beat, rush, super armor, basically all of the Navicust pieces that feel quite good to have just passively as you're playing. And so this is in terms of Navicusts the same matchup, literally the same matchup as our last set. So you can see the Thalzars really favor this Navicust in particular, and the Gregars really favor the other Navicust that Thiago is using. So the big difference here is the folders. Bitmuffin's A code versus Thiago's really mostly star code, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out differently from the previous set. And so I think we can hop into the match now.
Yeah, so we're seeing this from Bitmuffin's perspective.
Yeah, Slimes, how do you feel about the fact that this is literally the same setups, or literally the same Navicust setups at least, as as the match that was just shown with you versus player 0?
Yeah, I think it's pretty funny. That Falzar cust in particular has been around for a very long time. It's definitely a tried and true cust that's got lots of tournament wins. The only thing is it has pretty low HP, but then you have the beat and rush and the cust and buster stats, so all of that more than makes up for only having 1400 HP. And then yeah, on Thiago we see he went with the same chonk setup that I did. And I think it's definitely interesting to see more Gregors starting to use that instead of just going with air shoes, which is what we normally have seen from Gregors in the past. So going into it, Thiago's popping down to Sanctuary. And Bitmuffin does not manage to get that Erase Man out in time before the end of the turn.
Yeah, this early Sanctuary might pose a problem for Bitmuffin's damage output, especially on a target as durable as Thiago here.
Yeah, we'll see if no, we do see that Ice Seed from Bitmuffin, so if they manage to land that, then that will immediately clear the Sanctuary.
Yeah, unfortunately they need to find some way to flinch Thiago, otherwise the Ice Seed will not be very guaranteed. And I believe Thiago is sitting on the anti-damage, so it'll have to be 2 hits before the Ice Seed can be safely thrown.
Yeah, this Dust Beast charge can also clear the Sanctuary, and interesting, no Erase Beast from Thiago, he's just staying in Erase Cross.
Yeah, it is a clear, but only a partial clear, and it looks like an element ends up missing here because of the strange positioning from that beast jump, Risky Honey.
And so we can also see that since Diago took damage from that Dust Beast charge, the trap he has up must be an anti-navi. So Bitmuffin will need to keep that in mind if they try to use this Judge Man or Spout Man here.
So the Dust Beast charge only doing a partial field break here. This does give Diago still some holy panels to play around.
And it looks like Bitmuffin is considering changing crosses here. And it looks like they're deciding to go into Spout.
Yeah, seeing your opponent in Erase, yeah, and there's the Erase Beast. That would have been a very threatening turn.
Okay, and so Bitmuffin was smart about where they used that Element Man, because if they had used it on the middle column, Diago would have been able to get the D cross there with the lightning. But using it only 2 columns away, Diago just had to go for the fire. But since Bitmuffin now no longer has that Element Man, it could definitely be an issue to deal with these remaining holy panels for Diago.
Yeah, and he did also switch out of the Dust Beast in order to avoid the ×2 damage from the Erase Tail, so starting to run out of options in terms of getting rid of these holy panels.
We see the Q-Force come out here from Diago, and that's going to deal a lot of damage. And this last soldier still looks like it's still shooting, so Bitmuffin's going to go into Tomahawk Cross so that they won't be immediately paralyzed at the start of this next turn.
Ooh, and that's a lot of bees coming out.
Yeah, unfortunately, didn't have time to get the ×2 charge on them, though.
Yeah, it looks like Bitmuffin prioritized blocking the Q-Force damage and managing to squeeze out the multi-bees. Ooh, so that's the end of the beast out. And we're going to see what offensive crosses Diago wants to go into here in order to try to pressure Bitmuffin and finish him off here. There's a 1000 HP, or almost 1000 HP difference.
Yeah, since Bitmuffin is still in Tomahawk Cross, we might see a Heat or Charge Cross coming out for Diago here. Or maybe he'll go a Slash Cross. Oh, it's the Heat. The Diago still being able to have these holy panels to camp on is going to make it a lot more difficult for Bitmuffin to get through this 1000 HP difference. But we do see Diago doesn't have bug fix, and we can see now that HP bug is starting to tick down pretty fast, especially with the slow gauge.
Yeah, definitely that HP bug is going to become a factor. A factor here, it looks like. especially if he doesn't have an answer to this Life Aura right now. Bitmuffin still has a lot of damage in his folder. The base anomaly hasn't come out yet. Still has Judgman SP, and unfortunately used Spout Beast, so he does not have access to ×2 Aqua Sword charges. That would have been very good here if he somehow managed to confirm it. But Diago, knowing that Spout was already used, knows that that Heat and Charge are relatively safe. Basically only vulnerable to the Aqua Needle. Dude, anti-damage gets popped. And anti-heavy will not protect Bitmuffin here. Gets hit for the ×2 D-Cross from the Heat Cross charge shot. He uses Judgman here to get the area back, but Diago will not be stepping back. Diago quite enjoys this pressure that he's getting from the +1 area advantage. Even though it's not necessarily a huge deal for Heat Cross, it does mean it's slightly more difficult to dodge the charge shots.
Yeah, and so Bitmuffin will probably now have to go into Tengu Cross to remove this Life Aura. So I think one big difference I want to point out between Diago's setup and mine is we see with the B code splash he has a lot more Falzar hate with the machine guns for dust and ground, and then the 2 B navies for Tomahawk and Tengu. So, and against a Falzar matchup, against the Falzar build like Bitmuffin has, that should also give him an advantage. And so it will be quite difficult for Bitmuffin to be able to survive another one of these slow gauge turns with only 32 HP left.
I think you can definitely see that the matchup here for the Falzar versus Gregar in terms of these types of folders, it does feel like it slightly favors the Gregar in terms of putting pressure on the Falzar player to make sure that all of their heavy hitters land, because it seems like if even one misses, it starts to become a very precarious situation in terms of being able to finish off your opponent. And unless you're running double fast gauge, you are going to end up getting stuck in slow gauge with your opponent. So it would be hard to force it to damage judge as well.
Ooh, but we do see a counter hit from Bitmuffin there. And so we'll see if Bitmuffin can make it to the next turn and keep this full synchro intact. So far, they're doing a great job of avoiding these erase shots, and yeah, so... Unfortunately though, no Spoutman SP or anything to really take advantage of this. Nothing that's really hard hitting.
Actually, the ×2 wind rack would be pretty painful onto erase, I think.
Yeah,
But-
that's actually a great point. That would be over 500 damage, I think. But it looks like Bitmuffin's instead just opting to use the Elect Pulse.
Yeah, it is a bit greedy to try to go for the Wind Rack right off the bat. Ooh, so it does connect. And you see this trap come up. Oh no, the counter hit from the machine gun landing onto Bitmuffin. Followed up by the erase. So we're not sure what this trap from Diago is yet, but if it isn't anti-damage and Diago mashed it out at the very start of turn with no hesitation, then a Wind Rack first play would have been blocked. And it looks like it was anti-damage.
Yeah, that was pretty risky to use the Judgment like that, because if it had been an anti-navi, Bitmuffin would have lost their Spout Cross, but now we see a Bitmuffin using anti-navi on the Blast Man to keep their life aura intact.
Yeah, and with Diego not being in the cross right now, there's no options to try and get a Beast Charge to take down the Life Aura.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what Diago goes for on this next turn. We might be seeing the... Well, the problem with going for a Lek is that's too weak to destroy Life Aura, so Diago would need to bring a Wind Chip or the Proto Man to break the Life Aura if he wants to go for the Lek against the Spout. And if he goes a Heat to try and break this Life Aura, he could be in a... Oh, he's staying Null.
And unfortunately, with that, we're not going to see any more ×2 Aqua Chips coming out from Bitmuffin. Diago did manage to bring a Life Aura into that turn.
And Diago also popped a Slow Gauge at the end of that last turn. Ooh, the ×2 +30 Bs though did quite a bit of damage. Ooh, this could be the game. Bitmuffin should be able to survive this turn, but...
Being very close here.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it, Bitmuffin actually could go for a Beast over here with the 2 Elect Pulses and that Fire Hit.
Yeah, the big risk is just that they might end up on one of the poison panels at the end of turn. If they don't manage to finish Diago off right now, a Beast Overturn would give them a pretty decent chance of landing into the poison, especially if Diago manipulates the Beast AI into standing the same row at the end of turn. And that would
It would all come down to whether or not he could survive the 2 Elect Pulses and the Fire Hit. Oh, but instead it looks like Bitmuffin's not even going for the base Anomaly, but Judgment SP. And Thiago does actually step back, so that will give Bitmuffin all their area back right away. So this could actually work out.
Oh, but the double recovery 300s coming out from Thiago now. The Judge Man from Thiago will connect and take down Bitmuffin's anti-damage. And there's one more area grab. So Thiago is able to use this area.
I think with this invis, Bitmuffin might be able to make it into the next turn. Ooh, just 1 HP. And so now might be the time. We do see a second fire hit 3 though, so with the beast over, that could do almost enough. And then could possibly bring the base anomaly afterwards.
The potential combo I'm seeing here would be the Element Man into trying to line up for this erase, and then base anomaly right afterwards, yeah. Ooh, so that wasn't anti-navi. And the base anomaly, it gets blocked by invisible right here.
Yeah, so this should be the game. Ooh, almost manages to avoid that machine gun, but that will do it.
Well played to both Bitmuffin and Thiago there. I do think for sure you can see the kind of pressure difference that Gregor can put out by protecting their crosses, or even in Thiago's case, just remaining in like Null Beast. There's a lot of pressure, it feels like, on the Falzar to get the D crosses, and also to make sure all of the heavy hitters on their side connect. And I think the one thing we haven't seen, which would kind of reverse the situation a bit, would be if the Falzar player steps up with a charge shot lock of their own, whether it's Tengu or a Tomahawk. I think that would even it out a bit and let them put a decent amount of damage of like free passive damage back onto the field against the Gregor, and that might make the thresholds for damage a bit different. Let them threaten the Gregor with an actual deletion.
Yeah, for sure. It would definitely make it a lot more doable for Bitmuffin if they were able to threaten Thiago with their own charge shots and sort of trade charge shots while also getting in a lot of damage with that A code chips. But without being able to get any passive damage of their own, we definitely saw that match went in Thiago's favor, especially at the end.
Yeah, well played again to both players here, and I think with that we are heading into the setups for our next set.
Yeah, and so the next match will be it looks like you against Pablo.
Yeah, I've played this this matchup, I think in a previous New Moon. I did not actually play Pablo in the round robin, I think, so this will be my first time playing against him in quite some time. What I do remember is that this specific setup that I have, I did not really find it favorable against the double fast gauge Gregor setup from Pablo, because my HP threshold is, it's the same setup, same Bowser setup we've seen already, so it's 1400 HP, and it's really like an all-rounder Navicust. but my lack of defense, so I'm not bringing anti-damage or invis, makes it so that it's very easy for Pablo to connect the Kernel Force. Basically the only thing he has to watch out for is Life Aura, and with 2 Wind Racks, it's easy to save one for the Kernel Force to go alongside it and to knock off the Life Aura if it gets brought up that turn.
Yeah, so I think last week we saw Pablo against Player 0. We sadly didn't have the recordings for Pablo already played some matches in the losers bracket, I think versus Soul and T-Chomp. Those would have both been Gregor mirrors. So this is we're seeing Pablo now against another Falzar.
Yeah, and this is the first non-2200 HP Gregor we're seeing here in the stream, and it is a 1500 HP air shoes. It's like you were saying earlier. This is I would say this is the other popular Gregor setup. You either want the air shoes to protect you against Geddon and panel breaking effects, or you want the extra chunk, 2200 HP, and just kind of hope that if your opponent is running Geddon, that they can't run it into like multiple Gundam Souls 3 or Gundam Soul 3s or like really big heavy hitting chips to follow up with it. So I'd say that this Navicost might be a little bit weaker versus general matchups, but quite a bit stronger against Geddon specifically.
Yeah, and we even see Pablo has 2 Geddons of his own to go along with the air shoes, so if he can catch you with those Geddons when you're not in Beast Out or Tengu Cross, he'll be able to get a lot of free damage off of that. And they could also obviously deny your base anomaly, so Geddon is very strong both offensively and defensively.
Yeah, and with these turns probably going to be in fast gauge with the double fast gauge and it being ragged on both sides. While there's only one potential slow gauge, most likely a lot of these chips are going to come through very quickly. So the extensive defense coming out from Pablo, 3 invis to anti-damage, a barrier 200, so not just life aura, combined with the double Geddon and really just the whole setup. There's even a full cust in there to potentially deny his opponent another beast turn. It is going to make it, I think, very difficult for me to break through all that defense. So even though I have Dest Pulse, only really 2 of those pulses are meant to be used separately, because there's 2 Pulse 1s and 2 Pulse 2s. So I have those 2 extra pulses to deal with invis. But my folder can end up being very clunky thanks to the 2 program advances in it. So if I don't manage to maintain Dust Cross, it's going to be very difficult to get any of the heavy hitting or big program advances out, like Dust Pulse and Poison Pharaoh. And that's on top of Poison Pharaoh needing absolute area control.
Yeah, so it will really come down to, as you said, if you're able to keep Dust and get your those program advances going, and also the Super Vulcan combo. So I think we can get right into the match. And so how are you feeling going into this matchup?
Honestly, I wasn't feeling too confident. I knew that I could potentially take this matchup, but I felt like it wasn't necessarily in my favor. The fast gauges really help set Pablo up to just rush into the Kernel Force, and it's pretty hard for me to defend myself against that.
Yeah,
So we saw the one machine gun one. It is tagged with a wind rack, so there's a higher chance of it coming out. But getting that turn one machine gun and decrossing my dust with it. So this is already a pretty rough start. You can see 2 poison seeds, but no Anubis, and I don't have. That's actually really unfortunate because I have all of the chips I would need for a back row extended Poison Pharaoh play other than the Anubis here. But the loss of the Dust Cross means that I can't shuffle and try to reach for the Anubis now.
Yeah, and if we look at Pablo's folder again, he doesn't have any chips that could clear a back row object. No Blast Man or Tengu Man. So if you were able to get that down, that would actually make it extremely difficult for Pablo. But with Dust Cross already gone, that Poison Pharaoh could be buried at the back of the folder. Ooh, yeah. That's an extremely unfortunate TFC.
And you can see that without Dust Cross, I currently have no Dust Pulse components, and I've pulled both my Recovery 300s when I'm only 400 HP down. So it's getting really awkward already because my options are to try and toss these Poison Seeds, really. They're just going to continue to clog up my hand.
Yeah, and especially with the fast gauge in effect, the damage from the poison panels wouldn't add up very much at all. Ooh, and Pablo steps back and has defense, so he is safe from that element, man.
I think it might have actually been a better play for him to hold off on that fast gauge until end of turn, because there's no way for me to reach him with the Tengu rack, but he can actually reach me with the charge tackle.
And it looks like you did draw the Poison Pharaoh now, but unfortunately you don't have any area to set it up in the back row. And so Pablo would be able to destroy it very easily with just the charge tackle. Ooh, and we see the Groundman SP coming out from Pablo. Ooh. I see. You're trying to block the charge tackle by with your own body, but unfortunately, just couldn't get there in time. So yeah, we see Pablo almost immediately destroy the Poison Pharaoh.
Yeah, I think I was actually still blinking from the Groundman SP, but unfortunately, I don't think the timing would have been there for me to really be able to do anything. You can really see the fast gauge working out defensively for Pablo here.
Yeah, and against charge cross, even if this was the old Poison Pharaoh that had more HP, since the charge tackle's breaking, it still would have just destroyed it in one shot anyways. Now we see Pablo using a get-on and putting up his own sanctuary. And so now this sanctuary could actually be a huge problem, because I think your Element Man's already gone, the Poison Seeds are gone for Poison Pharaoh. So We see Pablo now going into Beast out. Oh wow, if those were Pulse 2s, you could potentially pull him out from under the Poison Seed.
Unfortunately, I think I timed that Poison Seed kind of badly. If I had thrown it a little bit later, I think that's an anti-damage from Pablo. I don't think he's running anti-navi, so if I could pop the anti-damage... Yeah, unfortunately that doesn't work out. The timing is just, it's not there.
Yeah, now we see the Barrier 200 coming out from Pablo. And on those holy panels, that could be very tough to take down with no wind chips.
So unfortunately, I ended this turn on the one panel that kind of leaves me with no options here. I locked myself in at the top row.
Oh, and we see the Kernel Force come out here, and that will be the game. Ooh, and we see here a Permahole field.
Yeah, and this is both blessing and a curse for both players here. It stops Pablo from getting a full area Kernel Force, and also diminishes the damage of Kernel Force if your opponent stays on those rows with the permaholes. But it also stops me from getting a back row Poison Pharaoh, so...
Yeah, and since Pablo has air shoes, this isn't nearly as bad for him. If he was running like a chonk build like me and Thiago have, these permaholes would basically make his charge cross almost useless for the entire game. But with that air shoes, it's no problem for him at all.
Yeah, so luckily I managed to wait until the wind rack came out and then pop the life aura right before the machine gun was about to decross me. So that saved my dust cross for this extra turn, and it's gonna give me options in terms of shuffling away certain chips.
Ooh, and yeah, so the other thing that this permahole field does is it will make that base anomaly much harder to connect with all 4 hits. So you just dust cycled it to the back of your folder. And this should clear that barrier 200. Yeah, there it goes. And
So he gets the decross here with the erase cross. Lines it up using the Geddon.
yeah, but now we do see that destroy pulse. So especially in fast gauge, that blind will last a long time. I think it's over 1,000 frames of blind. So in fast gauge, that would be like 4 or 5 turns almost.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping Pablo does not step down into the Holy Panel.
Ooh, and Nerith, you got it, the full Destroy Pulse, so now Pablo will have to deal with this blind for a very long time.
Yeah, Gregor players don't have the luxury of being able to go into Tomahawk and get rid of the blind, so this is going to be a pain in Pablo's side for quite a few turns. Yeah, it feels really contradictory, but it felt really tempting to take this slow gauge, even though normally you don't want to get stuck in slow gauge with a Gregor beast.
Ooh.
You can see these permaholes forcing Pablo to just throw in that ground man as a 60 damage hit though. But yeah, he does land the uninstall wind rack. And lands it as a counter hit as well.
Yeah, and we do see Pablo's HP slowly ticking down from that custom HP bug as well. Being able to connect that Destroy Pulse is just such a huge, it just completely changes the game.
Yeah, it really felt like I didn't have really good offensive options here, but I also want to finish this this as soon as possible. I didn't really like the prospect of getting a return kernel force, basically.
Yeah, and so, ooh, that was a terrible, that was a very unfortunate TFC for Pablo there. He could have been able to clear the Sanctuary instantly with the get-on, but instead, he basically loses it.
So you see the recovery 300 coming out for Pablo end of the turn here, and I've got my own recovery 300s here.
Yeah, so this will actually bring you almost all the way back up to full HP. And so we're on turn 7, so we're almost halfway there in terms of going to damage judge, and I think right now you would have a very slight lead. Or actually I think Pablo only used one of his recovery 300, so you'd probably have about a 300 HP, 300 or 400 HP lead in damage judge right now.
I'm actually not sure that I would have any kind of damage judge lead at all, because a lot of my damage is actually passive. So there's the poison seeds and then the custom HP drain from the dust pulse, so that's actually ticking down, and it might make the damage judge appear more skewed than it would really would be.
Yeah, that's
Ooh.
true, but ooh. when the blind finally wears off.
So I actually wasn't sure if I could drop this Anubis and then throw a Poison Seed onto the panel it's on and actually get the full Poison Seed effect. I didn't really remember clearly. But Pablo does use an Invis here, which lets me just... And yeah, it does work out like that.
Yeah, and because it was on that holy panel, it was actually able to take one hit from the slash cross. And so we see you're down to your last 7 chips, but we still see that Super Vulcan combo. And Pablo's now on a pretty low HP. Even 2 hits from the base anomaly would be enough to finish him off. Ooh. And so the non-beast out Super Vulcan with the attack plus 30 and white pill is able to finish off that second round. And it looks like you're going into a Spout Cross here on turn 1. Since Pablo will probably be predicting a Dust Cross again.
Yeah, even though Pablo only has 2 cursor chips in his folder, he's managed to pull them really early in the previous matches.
Yeah, he does have the machine gun tagged, so it is more likely to show up early on in his folder. And so you have a few options here, but without the Dust Cross, this, and even with the Custate, this hand is kind of...
Yeah, it looks like I have basically 1 piece of each combo that I want.
This Erase Man will connect, so... And into the Element Man, which should decross his Elect. And so that will keep your Spout Cross safe.
So I made a gamble here and locked no chips, seeing as how it is going to be fast gauge guaranteed. But really gambling here that Pablo doesn't have cursor chips to knock off the erase or knock off the Dust Cross here. But at this point, he probably should have access to something.
Ooh, and he goes for the Windrak machine gun. Yeah, I actually liked that play for you, just going for the no chips and Dust Cross, but unfortunately, it does not work out.
Yeah, I just have 2 pieces of each combo I want here. 2 parts of the Super Vulcan combo, 2 parts of Poison Pharaoh, and 2 parts of Death Pulse. So at this point, with no dust, I just have to use it up.
Oh, that was very unfortunate timing on that wind track. Pablo was still invincible from the anti-damage.
Yeah, Pablo did not return to the field yet, so I was aware that that was a possibility, but I kind of just decided to mash through it to see if it would actually happen.
Oh, Pablo does not manage to step under that poison seed. He was in the middle of the charge tackle, so that will connect. And with no perma holes on the field this time, it will be much easier for you to connect with that base anomaly. Ooh, but that get-on from Pablo will completely block the base.
Yeah, and with it being in fast gauge, it'd be very risky for me to sit on base anomaly, just waiting for the panels to return. So I think I ought to throw it away at this point.
Yeah, that would be like two full turns. And at that point, Pablo would probably be able to notice that you weren't using anything. So that's very unfortunate. That could have, if it had landed, it would have left him with 100 HP. And now we see the Recuv 300 come out. We're really seeing the power of the get-on and fast gauge here.
Yeah, particularly when your opponent is depending on chips that require unbroken panels, it really gives you a lot of defensive value.
Ooh, and we see the Q-Force coming out for Pablo here. I don't think this will do quite enough, but it might with that anti-damage on the Tengu Cross, actually.
Yeah, so it does just enough thanks to the anti-damage, and by the time that I threw the Poison Seed, that anti-damage was basically guaranteed to hit me, because Pablo just had to step under it. So originally for that turn, I just wanted to clear the anti-damage and set up for a double point Super Vulcan on the next turn, but Pablo doesn't give me that opportunity, manages to close it out with the Kernel Force.
Yeah, that was definitely well played though. A good 3-round match. But in the end, it looked like without being able to maintain Dust Cross, your folder just couldn't get a good flow going.
Yeah, definitely not having defense to protect the Dust Cross hurts me quite a lot against someone who can fish out an early cursor chip and just make sure I can't stay in dust.
Yeah,
But yeah, well played to Pablo there.
Yeah, and so I think that was a losers quarters match. So Pablo will be moving on to the next round, and he will play the winner of this next match, which is Salad versus Thiago.
So I'm not sure how much I should say, but this was a very tense match for me when I was aware of it happening. So this is not the same Falzar cust we've been seeing so far. This one has actually opted to drop the attack stat Navi cust pieces in exchange for an extra 300 HP and dropping beat as well to get that folder pack. So this folder pack gives Salad this access to an extra Navi chip, and you can see it being utilized here. So there's 3 SP Navi chips here: Spoutman SP, Groundman SP, and Elementman SP.
Yeah, we saw this matchup already during the round robin stage, where Salad managed to avoid Thiago's buster shots for an entire turn 15 to win damage judge. Because Thiago doesn't have the bug fix, so he was stuck with that buster bug. So I'm not sure if we're going to be seeing anything like that happening again this time. But it could be rough for Salad. She does have to be very careful about the Proto Man and Blast Man. Because if you get stuck in a Tomahawk against the Blast Man or Tengu against the Proto Man, that's 500 damage right there, so... And you definitely can't afford to be taking that much damage when you're already at a huge HP deficit to begin with, just against this Chonk setup.
Yeah, for sure, and I think it's really interesting. You brought up the Blastman SP and Protoman SP coming up from Thiago, and I see those Navis, and I think Thiago's setup is really very anti-Falzar. Those Navis specifically check Falzar crosses, but if you look at Salad's SP Navis as well, Spoutman SP, Groundman SP, and an Elementman SP, that's those 3 alone, that's potential coverage of 4 of the 5 Gregor crosses. And then there's 3 wind racks in Salad's folder, so Erase Cross is also not a safe option. So it really feels like both of these setups are really effective against the opposite version counterpart.
Yes, especially that Element Man SP gives you coverage against both versions, which is also why I decided to use it in my setup. It's just gives you the coverage against Tomahawk, both Fire Crosses, Spout Cross, and of course the Luck Cross. So yeah, it's just a very versatile chip in general.
Yeah, and I mean it having 2 also lets you having both an Element Man and an Element Man SP in your folder, that does also let you use one of them for a D-Cross and still know that you've got the second one in your waiting in your folder that you can use to get rid of Sanctuary. So I don't think we've talked about it yet, but Salad is running this A-code setup. It's really a Beast Rush setup with Elect Pulse 2s into the Wind Racks, and then these Risky Honey 3s that can be flexed defensively and offensively. I think Salad has a tendency to use them defensively and try to get the multi-Bs out, get the multiple hits onto the Hive to send multiple Bs out and block damage, rather than using it offensively with Tomahawk to get the double damage guaranteed. So it's going to be interesting to see how these Risky Honeys end up getting used, because they can potentially be a very big problem for Thiago's Kernel Force.
Yeah, I think Salad also likes using them to try and they can get counter hits pretty easily. And then if she stays as a base Mega Man, that'll give her full synchro. And then she could follow up with something like the Spout Man SP for a huge amount of damage. So we'll have to look out and see if she decides to go for that play against Diago.
Yeah, that's true. Alright, I think that's it. I think we can step into the set now.
And so we're already seeing lots of bees right away.
Yeah, personally, I'm really happy when I see this kind of hand, and I just feel the urge to load all of them up and go into Tomahawk. And I feel like Salad is definitely not that kind of player, and is going to want to use these defensively.
Yeah, it would definitely be pretty funny to just see that right away on turn 1, just all 3 bees with a Tomahawk cross, especially if Diago went for Elect cross. But Salad's gonna want to save some of those bees for later in the match. And so we see Diago going for the turn 1 erase cross here.
Proto Man SP getting dropped. Ooh, and Blastman SP also going to connect here, but luckily not on the grass.
Yeah, but since Diago already went for both of those on turn 1, now Salad knows that Tomahawk and Tengu Cross will both be much safer for the rest of the game.
Yeah, at the very least, the amount of damage you could take from the D-Cross hit would be greatly diminished.
Yeah, unfortunately, Salad doesn't have any of her Winder Axe yet, so this Erase Cross for Diago will still be safe.
Yeah, but Diago doesn't know that at all, so he might be sweating bullets here, thinking about yeah, there's the cross change.
And Salad lands the ×2 Aqua Sword, but fortunately for Diago, he stepped on the Holy Panel at the last moment. And so stepping on that Holy Panel there, I think saved him just over 300 damage.
Yeah, it would have been 640, I believe.
Yeah, and so Diago's already, after only 2 turns, he's already lost 2 of his crosses. So for the rest of the game, he'll only have Slash, Elec, and Heat. So it could be very difficult for him. He'll have to manage those 3 crosses very carefully. And so we see him for this turn not even crossing at all, just staying in base man.
Yeah, and we can see Salad just patiently not even using any chips that turn, waiting to see what Diago's going to do, knowing full well that Diago's going to have to feel some pressure to go into a cross eventually. There's really very little... Ooh! That anti-navi catches the Element Man from Salad. Diago opts to go for the freeze instead of instead of any other option here. I guess that is the best option actually. But yeah, that was rough.
Yeah, and we could see that Diago's still at almost full HP, whereas Salad's already lost over 1000 HP. And he even has the defense for the Spout Man SP here.
I do think the recoveries have come out for Diago though, so He's not going to have any more healing to bring him back up. Ooh, gets a D-cross hit onto Slash. And gonna carry this full cust into the next turn here for an additional turn of the Trash Chute.
Yeah, and Salada used the fast gauge a while ago, and we haven't seen the slow gauge come out yet for Thiago.
Yeah, it's important to keep in mind that from Thiago's side, he does only have Cust 6, so it can be hard to draw or to use up enough chips and draw the slow gauges.
Yeah, but we still do see Thiago with it. There's still a massive HP difference here. And Salad definitely can bring this back, but it could be pretty tough.
Yeah, this almost 1400 HP difference is really hard to contend with. Thiago has used a lot of the heavy hitters in his folder already. Of course, we've seen the Blastman SP and Protoman SP on the first turn. So it's really just down to this Kernel Force, I think. Ooh, unfortunately, cannot get lined up for that Erase Man. Salad not able to close this HP gap quite yet. The Erase Man connecting would have led to a total of 320 damage that turn.
Yeah, and Salad's already used the Spout Cross, Spout Man, and the Aqua Sword, so this Heat Cross for Thiago should actually be pretty safe. I think all Salad would have left to take care of it is the point blank Element Man. We also saw the Element Man come out from Salad and trigger the Anti-Navi, so actually all that would be left is the Element Man SP. Ooh.
Oh, I felt that one. I'm pretty sure I've done that more than once this tournament. It's good to know it's not just me, actually.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty rough to step back into a charge shot like that, especially for a D-cross. Ooh, and 3 hits from the Meteor Knuckle, that's not gonna be enough.
I always get really nervous when I see Salad in this situation because it actually feels like there is still the comeback potential.
Yeah. I mean, if she could get like a full block on a Kernel Force with the plus 30 Bs for sure.
Ooh.
In this game, we see the perma holes, And so this is actually a big problem for Thiago without air shoes. It will be very hard for him to get any mileage out of his charge cross this time. Because Salad can just sit behind either of those permaholes and the charge tackle won't be able to go over the holes.
Yeah, it also diminishes the value of kernel force. But to be honest, I actually think that's pretty fair considering the sheer amount of damage kernel force can put out.
Yeah, it's not so bad for kernel force because the two permaholes are also on separate rows. When the two permaholes are on the same row, that's where it can be kind of silly.
Ooh, the Erase Man connects here. Last man SP can.
Yeah, so that's for the second game in a row we've seen the turn 1 Blast Man from Thiago. And so the problem with these permaholes for Salad though is it will make that ground man SP a lot harder to land.
Salad already considering going into a Beast for this Beast Rush combo. Really wanting to knock off this Erase Cross.
Yeah, and as long as she's in Null Beast, you can still get full synchro with a counter hit, so we'll see if she maybe tries to go for a counter with the Pulse too. And so we do see Thiago going to charge cross, and so Salad's now just camping that top row.
Yeah, you can see him sadly charging into the hole.
Yeah, the one thing you could maybe do is the charge beast charge still goes over holes, but it's very inaccurate compared to just going for erase, heat, or elect, so...
Yeah, for sure. At that point, you're not just drawing onto cross, you're also making use of the beast turns, so you're not going to be in a different cross. You're using up that resource in order to get value out of the charge cross, so it is a bit different there.
Ooh, and we see a little bit of a freeze here. Okay, there it goes. And so Thiago's now going for a slash.
Oh wow, the entire machine gun gets dodged here. Oh! That counter hit. So we'll see if Salad can keep the... Oh no.
Oh wow. And so Thiago used a lot of extra area grabs there though when he already had the plus area, so this could actually be very bad for him later on in the game. If Salad manages to reclaim her area here, he would have almost nothing else left. He'd have maybe only one area grab left. Ooh, the fire hit 3 misses, unfortunately.
It's interesting to see Thiago didn't even bother stepping up to release that charge shot. And you can see just he's taking so many interrupts trying to make use of the slash cross that he's managed to get like one charge shot off.
Yeah, but if he has his second slow gauge, this could still be very dangerous for Salad.
And it looks like knowing that Salad is going into ground cross to try to get a D cross. Not managing to squeeze in the anti-damage there end of turn, but at least getting the invis out. Actually, it looks like Salad already had an anti-damage up, I believe? Or is that an anti-navi?
Yeah, I think that might be a anti-navi.
Okay, so just choosing not to replace it. Ooh, and you see here Element Man SP coming up, as well as this Groundman SP. Kind of have to consider which one to go with here.
Well, and Thiago knew that was anti-navi, so he stepped behind the hole to use the Proto-Man. That was very smart from Thiago. But Salad does get the Element Man grass to deal with that Sanctuary. And now she still has that Ground Man to potentially deal huge damage on the Slash Cross.
Yeah, this could be huge.
And so now that he's lost his area, we'll see if Thiago decides to stay in Slash Cross for this turn. Or maybe go into Elec against the Spout Cross. And it looks like Salad might be considering just throwing away the Ground Man. Or now, no, she decided to keep it.
Oh.
Wow.
That completely changed the dynamic for this turn. In fact, Salad might have some trouble here.
Yeah, she's gonna be left with only about 100 HP. Ooh, Thiago just misses. Just barely. He uses that too early. So now this is gonna be a huge uphill battle for Salad with only 100 HP. And Thiago still has his Kernel Force as well.
It looks like Salad was predicting that Thiago would have an anti-navi ready to receive the Groundman SP. And he did put up a trap at the end of the turn, so that could actually be true.
Thiago's switching to Elec, so Salad will not be able to get a ×2 with this Meteor Knuckle here. Oh, but Thiago goes into the corner.
That was like 5 hits?
Yeah, 5 or 6. And without air shoes, ooh. Oh, she could get a... This is gonna be huge, these bees. With the +30, this could be the game.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Oh no.
Oh, she uses the Spout Man too early.
Oh, but the Erase Man follow up?
Oh, no way. Oh, because that last soldier could still come up on the panel Thiago's on too. Wow, what a play by Salad. I don't have anything to say after that. That was just the
It is stressful watching Salad's matches, so I can only imagine playing them. Cause wow, alright. That 40 HP comeback.
yeah. I didn't think Salad would be able to top that entire turn 15, dodging all Thiago's shots at 1 HP to 1 damage judge. But I think that just topped it. Now we see a crazy TFC chain there that just ends with both players having a trap up. I think Salad lost her Element Man SP. Yeah, the end of that last round was just
Yeah, that last round is gonna haunt me for the rest of my life, I think.
yeah. And I mean, like, if you're Thiago, like, how do you recover from that in this round?
Well, we can already see he's taking cover behind this rock, trying to get a grip on reality here. This is pretty decent. Oh no! ×2 anti-damage coming down for Salad. We see that that Risky Honey blocking the erased heart shot.
And Thiago should at least be able to avoid this. Yeah. And so we see a Salad. Yeah, I think what the funny play here would just be to load up all 3 of those wind racks. And on this grass stage, those fire hit 3s are also very dangerous.
This is actually such an awkward position for Thiago. He's stuck in this machine gun, using the machine gun right now, but if he beasts and then gets hit by a wind rack, he's basically wasting a beast turn. So yeah, here he goes into charge to cancel it. Ooh. A lot of damage coming out this turn. To the point that it's almost even here.
Ooh, Thiago decides to throw away that holy panel, which would have been in Salad's area if she got it back after. So
Ooh, it's gonna be a ×2 Blast Man SP thanks to this grass.
ooh,
Oh,
wow,
that
that was a
really bad for Thiago if he didn't have that final bit of defense there.
yeah, but instead that turn actually worked out extremely well for him. And so now we see he's back with a about 600 HP lead.
Salad gonna use this full cost to basically just get the grab revenge out and then instantly end a turn. So we'll see whether or not Thiago can squeeze anything out and get any additional damage or throw anything else up in that time.
Yeah, and with the max area, that grab revenge will deal a pretty significant amount of damage as well. And Salad actually decided with a fast gauge in effect to just beast charge the full cost to remove it anti-damage.
That was actually a really good decision making from Salad there, because the slow gauge, if slow gauge came out in that turn and Salad only had that grab revenge loaded up, that would have been potentially really bad. So choosing to sit on that full cost until basically the turn's almost over, actually just guaranteed reaching that next turn.
So we could see that Thiago has anti-nav up right now. And so Salad will lose that judgment. She was aware of that and stepped into the other row so she wouldn't get hit by it. And so we see that that Groundman SP loaded up, so if Thiago decides to go into Slash Cross this turn, it could actually be very bad for him. If she can catch him trying to use slow gauge.
Ooh. Yeah, unfortunately it doesn't get the multi-hits on that Groundman SP. Only a single hit because Thiago intercepted it with his body.
And Thiago must be having second thoughts about using Kernel Force now after what happened in that last round.
Oh wow. Oh wow, that's rough. That's a very rough turn for Thiago. Salad stealing the Proto Man SP with the anti-navi and also stepping all of the machine gun shots right there.
Yeah, that was a huge damage swing compared to if Salad had decided to just use the anti-navi and could have potentially lost it to the machine gun. But now Thiago's using the and now it's without the air shoes due to that Electrag, and he's trapped, so Salad's Tomahawk is actually safe. And yeah, we see that Electragon with those cracks actually made a huge difference for Salad there. Without that, that would have been a great turn for Thiago, but instead he wasn't really able to get anything.
And I think Thiago still has access to his Beast out, so he might go into Beast here to try to get the Flame Breath, the Heat Breath I should say. This area is looking pretty restrictive for Salad. Oh no. Salad had the answer to that Sanctuary waiting. This does give Thiago the opportunity to try to take down his Life Aura using a charge shot.
And it looks like even with a 800 HP left, Salad was already considering a Beast overplay there. Because it is very risky to stay in Tomahawk against Heat Cross like this, and if Thiago were to go for a max area Kernel Force here, then all Salad would have is those bees.
Oh wow. Ooh, breaking the panels in this pattern like this. So Diago is now stuck here. It also greatly diminishes an incoming kernel force, potential kernel force this turn. So this was a really strong both offensive and defensive play here by Salad, even though Diago blocked the damage of the Meteor Knuckles with this Life Aura.
And so we see Thiago's taking his time to decide on what he wants to do this turn. By now, this far into the match, we can probably assume he has Kernel Force in his hand. And we see the Beast out.
Oh! And yeah, the bee punish right there. That risky honey just coming in clutch.
And so Salad takes it. At the end of that second round, it looked like Thiago was about to get the 2-0. And both games in a row, the bees on the Kernel Force.
Yeah, it's such an effective counter. The risky honey just getting multiple activations from the kernel soldiers. And
Yeah, and especially with that attack plus 30 attached on all those swarms, that's actually all the damage the Kernel Force would have done. Instead, it's like all that damage gets turned back around on them instead.
yeah, I think Diago for sure was just thinking, was thinking through that turn. Like he's probably staring at his kernel force and just being like, this is enough damage to close it if it can land. And just if it can feel so frustrating as a Gregar player stuck in that situation, the Meteor Knuckles just manage to trap you like that, and then it completely ruins your offensive options for the next turn. But at the same time, just that risky honey counter was really nasty.
Yeah, I think we definitely saw in that match the big disadvantage going for the Chonk Gregor has and not having those air shoes, because otherwise Thiago would have been able to avoid all those risky honeys at the end there and possibly have survived and ended up winning that. But since he was just locked in place, he just had to take all those bees. So definitely, that was a great set to watch.
Yeah, that was a real nail biter right there. Well played to both players there, and I'm not sure I could survive another set like that.
Yeah, that was a really hype match. So well played to both sides again. And yeah, so before heading into the next match, we will take a short break. But before we do that, just going to give a brief update on how the bracket looks so far. Okay, so we are still in losers bracket, so unfortunately every loss that we've seen so far meant that one player got taken out of the tournament. But we still have more matches to show, so coming up after the break is going to be Salad vs Pablo, and then the winner between them will be playing against player 0 and then heading into the grand finals, so to face times there. So going to see how the bracket plays out. But again, before that we will take a short break, but stay tuned for when we come back. Alright, looks like we're back. So before we head into our next matches, just going to do just a brief reminder of how the bracket looks so far in losers bracket, and I'll just mention that we will have an announcement before the end of today's stream, so make sure to stay tuned. After we find out who our new Moon Master is, there will be an announcement for what we will have next for our next event. Alright, so looking at the bracket right now, we've already seen Pablo play vs Nareth and Salad play Thiago as our last match, so now it will be Salad vs Pablo, and then the winner will be playing against player 0 and then into Sims for the grand finals. Alright, well, let's head into the setups for the matches. Okay, so what do you think, Nareth? How do you feel about this matchup coming up now?
I'm kind of mixed on this matchup. I do feel it's going to be kind of close. This is my feeling, because we've seen this matchup before. I think I'm not sure about this exact folder from Salad, but this kind of it's double fast gauge. Both players running regged regged fast gauge, and one of them. Well, so this is I don't know. It's a very strange matchup because both of them have double fast gauge, both of them have full cust, and I feel I've seen this reach damage judge a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like usually it ends in Salad's favor, but I've seen it end in Pablo's favor as well. So it can be. It's not a matchup I feel comfortable really predicting 100% because a lot of Salad's folder is, how should I put it, the damage and like the success that Salad can find with the folder is really up to her individual play at that moment, and landing the counter hits, landing the combos, and decrossing your opponent and pressuring them during the beast turns. There's a lot going on with Salad's folder, and when it works, it can be very difficult to defend yourself against it because the pulses will remove your anti-damage and pierce your invis, so it just removes both layers of your defenses. The wind racks can put pressure on you, especially as Gregar. If you're in Erase Cross, 3 wind racks in your opponent's folder makes you second guess choosing to go into that cross, right?
Yeah, so personally I feel like the matchup is slightly difficult for Salad, especially seeing how it plays out. So if we look at both folders, we can see that Pablo has a bit more defense. They both have the fast gauge, as you mentioned, but Pablo has that slight edge in defense with Barrier 200, Sanctuary, 3 invisible instead of 2, and obviously the recoveries. And in terms of the Geddon play, I think Geddon is going to be a very vital thing during the match, because as Falzar players, you usually have 2 ways to play around Geddon. You're either going to Beast Out or Tengu Cross. But in this case, with obviously Beast Out being the more accessible one. But in this case, for Salad, she wants to use Beast Out as an offensive play. So if Pablo is able to land one Geddon at the right time, then this might be a very painful play for Salad.
Yeah, I'm still not sure how I feel about the matchup overall, even after I think having seen it a few times before. Pablo's setup is very strong defensively, and it's kind of interesting to see that coming out of a Gregar player. It's really weird. Yeah, it feels really weird describing a Gregar setup as being very strong defensively, because usually you would think about it the other way around. Like the chunk setup that we've seen from Thiago and Symes, even though it's so durable and has so much effective HP, and Symes is going for the holy panels as well, and so technically it's a very strong defensive setup. It's hard for me to describe them as defensive setups because what they're going for isn't reactive play.
Yeah.
It's not reactive defensive play. It's they're just stacking enough HP and recoveries that they can just tank the hits as they're coming, and then recover them back up with recovery 300s, and then try and mitigate them with the holy panels, and trying to use your defenses as well to block some of the incoming damage, and kind of just hoping your opponent doesn't have enough damage to really threaten you, and then focusing on your offense. So even though they're so beefy, I would describe them as more offensive-oriented setups, simply for the fact that the defenses work purely to enable the player to focus on offensive play. Pablo's setup, on the other hand, it's so much less HP, 700 less HP built into the Navicust, but it's got the air shoes. So you have that versatility, you have that utility there. You can flex those air shoes in so many different ways to get yourself out of rough situations. And the air shoes themselves are both an offensive and defensive tool because of the 2 Geddons in this folder.
Yeah.
But it really feels like such a defensive folder in its way that it's a double fast gauge, and that's so rare when you look at Gregar to see fast gauge Gregar setups. So it's rushing into the next turn over and over and over, and it's trying to pull up off these defensive chips and also pull up the Kernel Force combo, right? So I find it really interesting. I think it's the only Gregar setup I've seen recently, at least, and in quite some time, that I can describe like this as a defensive setup. And so I'm not sure. I really feel that the setups can be very volatile with Pablo's setup. It can go to damage judge, right? And sometimes Pablo can win off of the Kernel Force damage and the Buster damage he's managed to put in, and the Groundman SP. And sometimes it can fall apart before it hits damage judge, and his opponent can kind of pierce through the defenses. But it's just so hard to predict with this matchup, I think.
Yeah, that is very fair. And as you've mentioned before, generally for Gregar builds, even if they want to have defense, that defense almost always goes into being offensive, being chip charge. Whereas for Pablo, I guess, describing it as trying to stall the game, especially with fast gauge, Geddon, the uninstall, and then having Q-Force as his main damaging output.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up that term, stall, because it feels so contradictory to use it for Pablo's setup. I feel uncomfortable describing it as stall because even though I believe I've seen people refer to it as such in the past, I feel uncomfortable using that term because it feels like a stall folder. I'm not sure. Like, it feels like with double fast gauge, you're rushing into the next turn over and over. And I think for the opponent playing against Pablo, it definitely feels like a stall folder because he just keeps pulling up defense. He just keeps pulling up defense, going to the next turn. You're not letting you land your offense effectively, and then using the Geddons even really effectively for holding off stuff like maybe your opponent's Kernel Force if you're in Gregar versus Gregar matchup. Right, being able to use that reactively against your opponent is really good, and also just keeping your opponent locked down for a full turn, basically in that fast gauge, more than a full turn if they don't have shoes. So there's just there's a lot going on with Pablo's setup. Like, it doesn't look too complicated when you just glance at it, but it's got some depth to it that I feel is interesting in terms of how you compare it to other Gregar players especially, but just like the overall meta right now. So I do think it's a very interesting setup. I just think the overall, yeah, I've said it. I've said it before plenty of times. It's just so hard to predict what's going to happen, and I feel like I'd rather just jump into the set and see it unfold, you know.
Alright, that's fair. Let's head into the match. So we see starting with both fast gauges, which I believe she might end up holding on one or both of them to try to maybe chip charge them later for that extra damage, especially as you've mentioned during this setup discussion that this matchup tends to go into damage judge, so she wants to really try to maximize the damage she can do.
Ooh, and it's a double rush coming out right here.
Ooh, looks like both of them are going for the anger play. So does have the Elementsman SP, looks like. Ooh.
Oh, Groundman SP versus Elementman SP. I do think there's additional value on a Groundman SP versus Elementman SP, but both players taking a huge chunk of damage.
And now Pablo ends up getting extra anger thanks to the damage done.
Yeah, it is a fast gauge tossed on Pablo's side, but really with 3 fast gauges remaining, it's very unlikely that this is going to be left in normal gauge for very long. And we can see 2 of the fast gauges in Salad's hand. Or yeah, so it's gonna end up having to get chip charged eventually for the additional damage, I think.
Yeah, so I think this is interesting to see if Pablo, okay, so he does decide to stay in base Mega Man, but we know he's in J-Code because he used that recovery, so he probably doesn't have as much of an offensive play this turn.
Yeah, overall, ooh, so the anti-Navi does steal this Groundman. It's not going to do anything, but and you can see that there's a end of turn Groundman SP not able to be used.
And looks like I think Sald end up holding onto that Groundman SP again, trying to maximize all that damage and maybe expecting Pablo to go into Slash Cross, especially since he has that +1 area. I think Pablo's only playing 3 area grabs, so yeah, there it goes. He's trying to maximize on the damage he can get with each area grab. Ooh, the Elementsman getting like, though this is actually a good position for Sal because she can hold on to that placement and barely getting a D cross. But now unfortunately she just has to stay and take in, I believe, 2 hits. Not sure the third one. Okay, it doesn't come out. Pablo's probably holding on to it to try to get a D cross on a Tengu that might come up to next turn.
So this seems like a really favorable position for Pablo. He's managed to land a lot of his damage already, and there's not much damage in his folder to begin with.
Yeah.
So, so it's defensive. So being able to get some extra shots in with the slash cross like this, getting the ×2 anger at the beginning, it just put him in a good position.
Ooh, nice movement from South. And the judgment.
Okay, Sal's getting that area back.
Ooh, and that tempting Meteor Knuckles, though she does have quite a number of chips that she wants to throw into the back of the folder with Dust, maybe looking for more Wind Racks, trying to go for the combo.
I think a single Risky Honey was tossed into the trash chute, and a single Risky Honey came back up to replace it.
Yeah. Okay, so she is taking both fast gauges, so one of them will probably be chip charged, maybe trying to threaten a D-Cross and then baiting a TFC to go for that Meteor Knuckles, which can be very devastating if Pablo ends up staying in Slash Cross. Pablo still has that massive HP lead so far, and he does stay in Slash Cross, so let's see how this plays out. Ooh, getting coming out though. Thankfully, Sal went into Beast Out, so that wouldn't be affecting her. Oh, interesting. So Pablo did have some defense, but he decided to take the D-cross instead, which turned out to be the correct play there. Oh, finally, a single Windrak does come out from Sarah, though she doesn't really have too much to combo with. Ideally, you wouldn't just keep chaining Elk Pulses. You want to have something like Fire Hit, something that flashes and deals damage, then you remove the flashing with your Elk Pulse. Oh, let's see if this connects. It does, nice. Start holding on to the anti-damage, and she did use both her fast gauges, so looks like we are staying in normal gauge for quite a bit longer than what I thought. Looks like she is going for the bees plus 30. This might be a very big turn. Pablo's HP is starting to go down, and he went into beast out, so we might be seeing Q-Force coming out. Ooh. That beast will extend the animation for the anti-damage though. Nice, she's waiting for this. This could be anti-Navi though. Okay, nice, it wasn't. Look, Dragon cracking panels. Pablo movement, breaking themselves down to 25 HP. Ah.
Unfortunately, Salad could not avoid that the Gregor Buster.
Yeah.
And make it into the next turn.
Yeah, I think if she made it into the next turn, then she could have still had it, because I think she would have been able to beast over and then maybe use Elk Pulse combos, which are very strong if your opponent can't block them.
Yeah, that was definitely still up for grabs at the end there, up until the Buster closed it off.
Ooh, and now we see Sald already having basically a good hand if she wanted to go into beast out, but instead she's playing it a bit safer, going for that life aura turn 1. Ooh, nice blocking that full area grab as well. Life aura coming down, looks like no TFC from Pablo. Pablo might be holding on to some defense in his hand, maybe just waiting for time to use them to avoid being hit or decrossed.
Yeah, both players playing the start very slow here, feeling out their opponent.
Yeah, I do wonder if Salad is going to decide to go into fast gauge this time. Last time she chip charged them, and Pablo didn't want to use his own fast gauge. So we'll see if this game gets played in differently. Ooh. Salad going for a mini combo, just Elk Pulse into a Windrak, and then maybe the fast gauge will activate this turn. Or a chip charge maybe. Oh, nice. And that was the only machine gun that Pablo has, so now outside of an Erase Man, Salad is pretty free to go into Dustcross.
Yeah, and that was a solid 400 damage, I believe. So that was a very respectable amount of damage for that one turn.
Yeah, these chip charges are at attack 1, so they don't really do that much damage. I believe it was 60 per hit from Nullby's chip charge. But let's see what Pablo decides to cross into. I really doubt he's going to try to get something from that rush.
You never know. A ×2 Groundman SP would clear the life aura actually. Oh, but he does choose to go into heat.
Oh, nice. Is that going to
connect?
connect? Nice, it does connect. started going for the anti-Navi TFC. Avoids taking 60 damage, which I'm not really sure if that was worth it. But I guess better than being stuck with an anti-Navi up and then having to lose one of the harder hitting Navis, like the ones we see now. Anti-Navi can very much be a double-edged sword.
Yeah, and Pablo having lost this much HP this quickly might not be able to make it to damage judge, so gonna have to change the game plan possibly.
Ooh, he does go into Beast out, so who knows, maybe we're going to see Q-Force coming this turn. That would be one way for Pablo to bring the game back, especially with all of these area grabs. And there it goes. Ooh, nice.
Ooh.
That was pretty unfortunate time freeze usage from Pablo. If he didn't use that grab revenge, he would have been easily able to land everything and maybe win the game there. Oh, nice. And now Sald has the Judgment to regain the area, and thinking about taking that full cost to waste one of the beast out turns. Ooh, nice. That does connect.
And 16 HP.
Not quite game, but these bugs looks like will finish off that game. Heading into a very quick game 3 now.
And I think even if the Kernel Force landed, I'm not sure if it would have done enough to end the game right there. I don't believe it would have, because that is not an attack plus 30 Q-Force, you should keep in mind. That was only the beast bonus, so I believe it would have done 900 or so, plus the beast buster, so it is a huge chunk of damage, maybe 1100, 1200 after the beast buster, after all said and done. But not enough to take down 1550, which is I believe is what Salad had at the time.
I see, and now we're heading into game 3 now, where we are starting with these ice fields, so let's see how that changes how Salad decides to play the game out. Looks like she might be going for a play to get Rush, getting that 2x into Spoutman SP, instead of going for Life Aura and trying to take it to Dust. Ooh, and Pablo goes into Slash Man, which is a very interesting play, so he might have a Erase Man in hand, or at least the machine gun.
Ooh, so the barrier 200 gets popped in order to guard against the Spoutman SP.
Actually, I feel like if Sald had waited on, I mean obviously she didn't know Pablo had the invis, but in an ideal case where she could have landed that Spoutman SP, wouldn't it have been more damage to just use it into the barrier 200 instead of as TFC?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, but she does end this turn with the anger still, but no heavy hitting chips to use it with.
Ooh, she does that. Ah, barely missing out on that wind rack, almost getting D-cross. Ooh, she loses her anti-damage as well, which was really unfortunate. That was pretty rare interaction actually, you don't really see it very often.
Yeah, the anti-damage did get popped by the wind rack, the same wind rack that took down the life aura, so I believe that comes down to a client-host interaction.
Ah, I see.
Actually, I'm not so sure. Yeah, I'm not really 100% sure. That might be possible even without the client-host interaction, because that was a result of stepping into the wind rack.
Ooh,
to
Sanctuary.
Sanctuary.
Nice.
Oh, but the decross comes through. The fire hit does not land.
Yeah, Sanctuary can actually be pretty rough for Salt if she doesn't have a way to deal with it. Ooh, nice. Looks like she did get the Element Man, but actually, does Pablo run anti-Navi? I don't think so.
I don't believe he has anti-Navi.
Okay.
It should just be 2 anti-damages, so...
But she also has that Grab Revenge, which she might want to use. I guess it's not ideal to be taking Navi chips into a turn with Beast out. She ideally wants to use Beast jump combos and things like that to maximize damage.
So it kind of looks like a chip charge
Ooh, nice.
into grass.
Then she's probably going for that 2x on the fire as well. Pretty nice so far. Ooh.
Ooh. So the Life Aura will block this 480, but it will get destroyed in the process.
Now this is the final beast out turn for Salad, so she might have to watch out for the full cast that might be coming from Pablo. I don't think we've seen that already. Looks like she's deciding against taking those bees, maybe trying to chip charge them with Tomahawk or holding on to the Q for stun. Oh!
Ooh, and Salad took 200 damage from colliding with that ice cube.
I guess that's the thing, yeah. That was pretty unfortunate for Sal. That was very weird movement. Oh, and now Pablo did end the turn with Rush, so he might end up cross-cancelling or maybe going for the greedy 2x play, which, to be honest, at this point in the game, I do doubt it, because it does have to mean he has to be a bit more offensive in the hand he takes, which might put him at risk into taking something like this Meteor Knuckles. Oh, looks like he did stay, and he had Geddon. So let's see what the follow-up is for Pablo after that Geddon. Oh no, 3 hits on these Meteor Knuckles. That's quite a bit below average, I believe.
Yeah, that is some abysmal luck for a corner Meteor Knuckles. Pablo down to 520, and Salad sitting at 670 here.
Yeah, Salad is basically forced to go into Tengu Cross to avoid being blocked by that Geddon. And we are in fast gauge, I believe, so she doesn't take that many chips. Ooh. Full cost coming down from Pablo now. Ooh, nice counter hit. And she releases the bees. Ah, that was very close. Pablo almost missed out on using his second recovery, which would have been very devastating for him. But now Salad is stuck with 3 Navi chips in hand when Geddon is still on the field, so ideally she doesn't want to use them. But she is taking Judgment. I believe this Geddon might be close to ending, I'm not really sure.
It should be ending soon. Yeah, here it is, end of turn.
Though it's not quite enough time for Salt to end up using the Judgment to get any value. Yeah. Ooh, okay, he is going into it again. She does have bees and an anti-damage up already as some defense, though Q-Force coming out from Pablo can be a bit scary, especially if followed up by Raceman, which might be what we're seeing there. Bit of an early judgment coming out. So regaining area. Ooh, Q-Force does come out and followed by Raceman, the unlucky movement from Salad, and then this will be enough for game.
Yeah, unfortunately, not managing to avoid that erase man at the very end.
Yeah, that was really close. If that Raceman had missed, I believe Salad would have had enough time and HP to survive at least into the next turn and maybe Beast over as well.
Yeah, that would have been a potential return beast overplay, but Pablo manages to close it out with that Colonel Force erase man wind rack right there.
Yeah, and that cube at the beginning, that ended up making the difference as well. I believe if Salad had 200 more HP, she might have been able to survive again into the next turn at least.
Yeah, that 200 HP from the cube was very unfortunate. But yeah, well played to both players there. And looks like Pablo coming out on top this time with the double fast gauge strategy. Managing to squeeze out these wins with the Colonel Forces. It's some pretty solid play from both players there.
Alright, well played again to both sides, and let's head into our next match being losers finals with player 0 vs Pablo.
Okay, so I'm not sure if actually no, yeah, we've seen you play I believe one set prior to this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have seen this G code. The uninstall, the dragon combo, you know, all the good stuff in G really. Running the standard Falzar setup, and you're up against Pablo here, who we've just seen finish his set with Salad. And so it's going to be the double fast gauge. So how do you feel about this matchup?
So I think this is a bit of an interesting matchup. So I think again it goes back as in a similar way to my game against Symes that we saw at the beginning of the stream, where my folder has a good number of options against Gregor, but it's all based down against getting that D-cross. So if I would fail to get that D-cross, then it can be a very big swing for the Gregor player, but if I do get a D-cross, then obviously it will be a very nice opportunity for me.
Yeah, for sure. The as we've mentioned before, the Groundman SP, just the SP Navis and your Giga are really good checks against the Gregor crosses, but it might end up being a little bit different this time, because what we mentioned before was that the wind rack, only having one wind rack, not having much wind coverage, that yeah, there's that vulnerability there against Gregor. There's that very safe cross for a Gregor player to go into. And I think the only way for you to really cover that and to adapt to it would be to go into Tengu Beast and try to use the Tengu Breath chip charges to decross your opponent. But it can be somewhat difficult to land those. So I'm not really sure how this matchup will play out, because I'm not even sure if Pablo will take advantage of that deficiency in wind chips and use Erase Cross extensively. Just given his general strategy, so we'll see what game plans both of you go with here.
I don't think I have anything else to add. I guess going to head into the match, see how it turns out.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so it looks like we are starting with the cubes field. That was a bit of fast custom, but I decided to go into Dust Cross trying to get the value. I think I had some defense at the start there.
Well, going into Dust right off the bat, is a pretty standard Falzar play, especially with the cubes on the field. We'll see if Pablo has something to answer the Dust Cross play with. He did manage to pull cursors against me very early.
Ooh, manages to land the Holy Panel at the start. And Rush activating as well, so looks like Pablo might be going for an anger play again.
Oh, I'm not sure about ending on grass there. I feel like using element ice would have actually been better because I would be worried about Pablo trying to take advantage of the grass as well.
That's a good point, but I don't think Pablo has. I think the only fire chip he has is Elements Man, and if he decides to cross cancel, then obviously that will mean he loses his anger. So
yeah, that is a good point as well. He does not have that much to take advantage of. So barrier 200 coming in here. Player 0 turtled up pretty effectively here with the defensive chips. I'm not sure that there's going to be that much value though, because
ooh,
oh no! Pablo managing to land enough charge shots to break the barrier 200 and get that Anger Erase Man decross for a ridiculous amount of damage onto the Dust Cross right there. Yeah, so despite all of the defense there, still taking that really huge hit.
yeah, Raceman was pretty much the only thing that Pablo could have had to break into the hand, and I think he kept his hand from the previous turn because we saw that recover 300 at the start. So that ended up playing out very nicely for him. And yeah, it looks like Pablo still hasn't popped his fast gauge as well, so he's deciding to play a bit more patient. Ooh, the unfortunate miss on the ball star because of the beast jump. Now going for another defensive turn, though that miss on the uninstall was quite unfortunate, especially when so much of Pablo's folder would get very much hurt by his own Geddon. Ooh, barrier 200 coming down. Okay, so it looks like I'm going for more offensive turn with the G code as well. Pablo going into charge cross and using that full cost straight away. Ooh, and it looks like that barrier 200 might have survived that wood dragon.
Yeah, I feel you could have actually gone into Tengu here and back bead, seeing as how the wood dragon did not get rid of the barrier 200. You would still retain your chips in hand.
Oh, okay, so it looked like it did remove that barrier 200.
It just updated a little bit slow.
There was delay on the animation. Unfortunately, this Groundman SP will have to go into that Geddon. Ooh, machine gun coming out from Pablo into the Embiz at the end of turn.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you're not able to avoid any of those machine gun shots due to this Geddon.
Now it looks like deciding to go into Tango Cross and taking recovery just maybe as a way to move the folder. Anti-damage coming down during flashing. Pablo is still invis, so going for the recovery 300 maybe was the more passive play, just to try to go through the turn without taking an offensive chip that would be wasted. Ooh, life orb coming down.
I feel waiting on that area grab to try to guarantee an area lock was a little bit greedy. It did result in kind of a clunky hand now, where you have where you only managed to use one of recovery 300s, and you effectively wasted one turn there. Basically, just trying to wait out the invis.
Ooh, Windrock coming out into that grab revenge as well.
Ooh, and Judgment should connect.
And yeah, it does connect, nice. So Charge Cross does have invulnerability.
Ooh, so the it does get used, so this neo variable does get used, but it's not on the center, and this could be a problem.
Yeah, so now Pablo has the option of cross cancelling and just stepping up and maybe reading up some defense as well.
Yeah, this neo variable is likely to miss here if Pablo cancels. And the Meteor Knuckle would also be blocked by any defense that comes out.
Ooh.
And there it is, the anti-damage.
Though Pablo had to throw away Grandman SP, which would have been quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a trade there. But now we're seeing the end of your folder. And Pablo still has a pretty decent chunk of HP here. 1100. He's managed to avoid a lot of damage quite effectively.
And I believe both sides have already used, at least Pablo used both recovery 300s and I used one of mine and this second one. Ooh, Judgment coming down.
Yeah, narrowly avoiding the ×2 and the decross there.
Ooh, area grab does come down.
Yeah, giving him the area lock. You don't have that many counterplay options available to you anymore. Basically just this Element Man SP to get a freeze, interrupt his charge shots, and will you take the machine gun?
Yeah, I think I was trying to go for a counter right there, but it didn't quite work out. And now Pablo has that get unlock as well, so fortunately, I don't really have much else to deal with that either.
Yeah, unfortunately you weren't able to oh no, yeah, here it is, the Kernel Force.
And that will finish off that game. Alright, heading into game 2. We are starting on an ice field with cubes on it, so this might be a pretty good opportunity for Pablo if he's able to get decross, especially with ice panels that could potentially make it easier for decross to happen. Ooh, and it seems like Pablo decided to stay in base Mega Man again. Ooh.
Oh no!
That
would have been so much damage. Getting the cube
gun,
break.
Yeah. Not that machine gun, the only one that Pablo has just came out and it did connect at the end there. Now ending with rush, so there is always the option of trying to go for rush play or maybe Just playing it a bit safer and going for cross cancel. Looks like the rush play it is. Ooh, fast gauge is coming down though. Ah, and that raceman unfortunately does end up missing. Hull panel coming down and then getting removed straight away, but this does remove some of these ice panels, so this might make it easier for Pablo to navigate around the field now.
Yeah, it's difficult to say at this point whether those ice panels were more hindrance than a help.
Losing that invis and obviously in fast gauge that does last for quite a bit. Ooh, that mess on the ice, but that will allow for a TFC chain for that Groundman SP to connect, doing decent amount of damage as well and breaking one of the panels.
Yeah, by this point Pablo does have a Cust 8 though, so he's probably finding it much easier to navigate through his folder and get the chips that he wants and kind of just sort through. So the charge cross Cust Plus is really probably helping him out a bit.
Ooh, see beat activating though, don't really know what ends up being taken. Ooh, Groundman SP does come out and this Barrier 200 will block 2 hits, so it's quite decent usage. Anti-damage coming down into Geddon as well, though this is slightly outside of the area where Pablo's charge shot is able to connect.
End of turn area grab, kind of locking Pablo down here. But I do believe he still has... Actually, I'm not so sure. Yeah, he should still have his grab revenge. But he might want to hold on to that.
Ooh, Pablo still has an anti-damage up, so unfortunately charge shot will have to connect for that Meteor Knuckles to do anything, and does connect. But Pablo did have that second anti-damage ready just in case.
Actually, I'm not sure if he'll be able to cross-cancel the anti-damage at this point. Doesn't look like he'll even try. But that is a full cast coming out.
The full cast will probably save Pablo from that Bubble Star. He has more than enough time to use any defense that he might have. I guess the question is if he does have any defense. I think he might be able to step away from it, but trying to do that might be risky. So yeah, it looks like defense it is. Ooh, life aura coming down at the right time. Ooh, looks like going just with an Elementman SP. Maybe trying to get D across. Even just landing the 240 damage can be quite valuable. Ooh, on the wind rack.
Oh no! Oh no, that was a huge missed input right there. That would have been 480 damage and protecting the life aura at the same time. And with the life aura being protected, Oh, well that was
Yeah.
a tragedy.
Yeah,
That was a tragedy. Um, Still not the worst situation here, but it's gonna be hard to continue to pressure Pablo from this position, I think.
and I believe we've just seen Judgment being used at the end of turn there. Ooh, that D-cross is going to come out though.
Yeah, shifting from Tengu to Tomahawk, I feel might have not have been the best choice there.
Yeah, I think in that position I thought I might still have my anti-damage buffered from the previous turn because it was just at the end there. Ooh, it looks like this time going with that machine gun, though Pablo still has these holy panels, so trying to deal with them might end up being rough depending on what I have in hand. Ooh, Eric Grab will proc the anti-damage. Let's see if machine gun does connect. Nice. Into the grab revenge though, anti-damage will deny the area from coming back. Ooh. Rush activating at the end of turn, so that will give plenty of time for the Hate Dragon to connect.
This definitely, at this point, it feels like it'll go to Damage Judge just because of these extra recoveries. Not sure what Pablo could do to take you down, but likewise, you should also be hard pressed to finish him off here.
Ooh, that reflector being used at the end of turn. We're still in turn 13, so Beast Over could still be, Beast Out Q-Force could still be coming out though. Ooh, looks like Beast Out is coming, and this is turn 14. Raceman as the leading chip, and Q-Force does come out. Few buster charges. Chip charge is coming out, doing 180 damage. And now this is the final turn.
Yeah, and definitely it was the Beast Charge in combination with the Kernel Force that tipped the scales there and ended the Damage Judge in Pablo's favor. So well played to both players there.
Yeah, well played, GG's.
And this does mean that Pablo will be advancing out of losers and facing Symes, I believe, in the grand finals.
Yeah, that is correct. Alright, let's look into the setup and see how the match might go. Okay, so I believe this is going to be a very interesting matchup actually, because I think Symes and Pablo have already played each other during the round robin stage.
I believe they have, and so this is a Gregor versus Gregor matchup, and you can see that this is going to be the chunk setup versus the airshoe setup. So we'll see whether or not Pablo can get that get-in value and really make use of the airshoe's advantage, get an advantage through charge shots, being able to land them, versus Symes, who would be locked down by that get-in.
Yeah, so I think this can actually be a very rough matchup for Symes, because if Pablo is able to use that fast gauge and is able to make it stick, then basically Symes will be just as a punching bag for Pablo to land his charge shots, at least in the exchange, maybe get in with the uninstall as well, which obviously is a big advantage, and as you've mentioned, these two get-ins as well.
My personal opinion in these types of slow gauge versus fast gauge matchups is actually that the slow gauge at least in this instance, especially with Symes versus Pablo, I kind of favor Symes' slow gauge because I feel that without the fast gauge, Pablo might be in a bit of a sticky situation if it's forced to play out in normal gauge because neither player wants to be the first to drop their gauge. I feel like Symes should have an advantage there, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Alright, well, without further ado, let's head into our final match for the stream. This match is going to be the final one, deciding who is our new master. And we might end up seeing a bracket reset depending on how it plays out.
Yeah, if Pablo does manage to take the set, it will be a bracket reset and a second set to determine the winner.
Alright, here we go, and we're already starting Symes with that bug fix, which is always nice, although the only thing that would really punish it from Pablo is the uninstall. So it's not really vital, but it's basically a reassuring thing to see the fast gauge bug fix coming out early. And Symes deciding to go into charge cross, trying to get the extra custom, and looks like that's the play on both sides. And both of them are going for the area grab exchange. Let's see if that sticks, and it does. Nice. And it looks like Pablo is deciding to play a bit more offensively. Both of them are taking quite a bit of drain damage from these poison panels, but for Symes the HP drain isn't really significant overall. Ooh, nice movement, avoiding that charge tackle, and Symes using his invis while Pablo is using his charge tackle, trying to maximize the amount of mashing. Looks like he wasn't quite able to do it. Ooh, invis does come out from Pablo. Pablo does have quite a bit of defense though. One grab revenge can deal with all of that.
This is kind of strange actually. Pablo only has 3 area grabs and has now used 2 of them. Symes has used 1 of his own. But this would mean that if Symes gets a grab revenge here and chooses to use it like he's planning to here, Pablo would only have 1 area grab to do his kernel force with at this point.
Ooh, Geddon is coming out. This is actually really bad for Symes. I was surprised why he decided against taking his Windrak, because that was the only way he had in hand to try to push Pablo. Ooh, and that TFC was unfortunate. I'm not really sure if Symes wanted that either.
Yeah, the TFC was definitely not good for Symes, but actually not taking very much damage at all thanks to this holy panel, so Pablo dropping his own there.
But yeah, Symes still has to deal with that Geddon. As a Fuzzler player, my first instinct would be to just cross out and be done with it basically, but fortunately Symes has to stay, but he does have a good amount of defense though, which is pretty nice.
I feel like the pressure from this Geddon is really not too much for Symes to deal with, simply because it is it's not slow gauge, I believe.
Yeah, we are still normal gauge. Ooh, double aura coming out from both sides, and both of them have access to the holy aura as well, though I don't think either of them have any chip that does over 200 damage in one hit, so...
Very awkward here. Both players playing up traps, and I believe on Symes' side it is the anti-navi, whereas Pablo only has the anti-damage. I feel like continuing to kind of play it slow here would be in Slime's best interest. Just peeling back each layer of defense. Pablo does the same right here with that Wind Rack, both of them taking down each other's life auras on this turn.
But now Pablo does have the information that he is playing against the anti-Navi from Symes, so this Sanctuary might be at risk from Symes if Pablo decides to TFC a Navi into it. And Symes doesn't have any defense outside of that Sanctuary in hand either, so this could potentially be a pretty bad turn for Symes going forward. Ooh. Oh wow.
Ooh. Yeah, so the Erase Man misses because of this collision.
But now Beast Out coming out from Pablo might mean Q-Force is coming soon. Ooh, and that Sanctuary doesn't get dropped at the end there.
I'm honestly not sure that Symes really cares, because the Q-Force would not have any ability to threaten Symes, even if it came out, so I think he just feels free to stay here in Erase Cross, sit on the Sanctuary, just trade charge shots of Beast, and each turn of Beast that passes by for Pablo is kind of a missed opportunity here.
Yeah, though in this position, we are already in turn 8 and Symes has taken quite a bit more damage compared to Pablo, so going into the damage judge might look a bit scary for Symes so far, though again Symes still has quite a bit more defense. Oh, okay. So looks like there wasn't Q-Force coming out or even chip charges from Pablo. I feel like these beast turns basically wasted. I don't think we saw much happening there.
Ooh, yeah, I do feel at this point that yeah, Symes has decided to drop that, and it goes and gets countered by the Ground Man, which obviously triggers his anti-Navi. So Pablo takes this damage, but does block the Sanctuary.
Yeah, so maybe in that position Pablo was trying to hold on to that Ground Man, maybe punishing a TFC, which in the end came out, but maybe a bit too late.
I feel this is now a very good position for Symes to be in. His opponent has used up their Beast Out turns. He still has his.
Yeah.
And also his opponent has already used. I'm not sure if Pablo has used all 3 area grabs, but he has used at least 2.
Yeah,
so if Symes wants to do some aggressive area plays, he could get some good value out of it. But choosing to go into Eli Cross here.
Yeah, so he's probably worried about the Grandman SP, which is probably one of the main win conditions that Pablo still has outside of Q-Force. So he needs to make sure he doesn't get hit by that, which I guess these broken panels will make that an easier thing to avoid. Ooh. Okay. So Pablo decided to sacrifice that Invis to TFC for getting into Sanctuary.
Yeah, that was an unfortunate. Oh no, but Symes does have this Element Man SP here to deal with it, and potentially get a 480 damage hit. So this could still be very good.
Yeah, Symes is still stuck on broken panels, which I think will last at least for the next full turn. I'm not really sure how long they still have left.
Yeah, it will last for quite a while, but he might be freed by the end of this turn, if not a little bit into the next turn.
Though I believe we still haven't seen that full cost either, so we might be seeing that coming up into the end of turn. Sam still hasn't gone into his beast out, though he still has time if he wants to time that beast over 4, 10, 15.
Oh, this is huge. 480 damage. D-Cross gets rid of the holy panels. And that is what Symes was waiting for.
Yeah.
And now it's his turn to go into Beast.
Yeah.
He patiently waited this whole time, taking quite some punishment, really, just sitting in Raise Cross for a long time. And we'll see if Pablo can survive. Burns one turn with full cust, but does he have the defense by this point to protect against this?
Yeah, if that Q force does connect, then that will be game on that turn. So Pablo doesn't really have the luxury. He still has his own beast over if he wants to go for that Q force, but maybe he's holding onto that for the final turn, which I'm not sure if we're going to see at this point. Ooh, Grandman does come out, but gets interrupted by that Invis. Invisible coming out from Pablo. This flash bomb will deal with that very quickly into Q-Force coming out at the end. So now Pablo has the option to go into Beast over and maybe use Q-Force as well.
But I believe this is only turn 14. Pablo will have to survive an extra turn here.
Ooh, interesting. So Symes is taking that slow gauge, which maybe he's going to try to hold on to it for the next turn?
He pops the slow gauge right off the bat.
Yeah, so Symes is waiting for that Q-Force to come out because he knows he probably has time to react to it, and that's exactly what we see happening there. And I believe at this point, even if Symes isn't able to finish off Pablo during the final turn, or I think we're going up to turn 15, yeah, so he will still win on damage judge, I believe. So this is a very good position for Symes, though he decides to go into Heat Cross instead, maybe trying to get the extra damage, confirm his win. Single Buster Shot is enough. Ooh, Raceman coming out, though gets TFC'd by Judgeman, which will take us into game 2. That was very nice play from Symes, playing it very patient, taking his time, basically playing very careful on how the matchup might go.
Yeah, I think quite a few of us could learn from Symes' example here. Just managing to, hold on to his chips for such a long time, just patiently waiting for Pablo to run out of steam there, knowing that that Pablo doesn't have enough damage to finish him off.
Ooh, looks like this time Pablo decided to go for that slash cross turn 1 straight away, trying to apply the early pressure, especially seeing how slash is one of the highest DPS options for Gregor crosses. Ooh, very nice timing on that TFC'd Invis, running out just before the turn ends, but right after that charge shot misses from Pablo. Now we see Symes with the immediate grab revenge.
Yeah, Symes does not want to take too much damage here for free from his opponent's slash cross. Going to try to turn the tables on them in terms of the area control, and then get some charge shots out of Eli Cross.
Ooh, this is very nice. So this grab revenge will interrupt that machine gun as well. Ooh, and coming out, though that was a bit too late after the area grab coming down, so now Pablo will unfortunately have no way to confirm start shots. Holy panel coming down, giving Symes more options to try to move into the start of next turn. But he does have that sanctuary again, nice. Ooh, interesting. What do you think about this coming turn with Symes just taking that slow gauge?
I'm not sure. I feel this is a very confident turn right here, but he very wisely chooses not to drop it at the start, so this will be a normal gauge turn, I believe.
Yeah, so that was one thing I was wondering before getting into the match. If either of them, I guess we only have Sam's point of view, so we can only see it based on that. But I wouldn't doubt it if one of them decides to throw away one of the gauges, because they just try to read into the game, assuming that the other person is very unlikely going to try to start with his fast gauge, and then trying to play that fast gauge into that gauge game.
Yeah, definitely. Symes has is kind of gambling. He's bluffing here. Pablo has no way of knowing that Symes just tossed away one of the slow gauges, and so it's very unlikely that Pablo will start dropping fast gauges.
And for Symes, he already had both of them in hand, so he wanted to get rid of at least one of them just to try to get his hand moving a bit more smoothly.
Judgment does not connect here.
That being said, Symes does have 2 holy panels, so if he really wanted to, even if he decides to take the charge shot exchange, that would be a positive trade-off for him. Ooh, Symes thinking he just went into the turn with 2 chips, again showing how patiently he's playing that game.
And just tossing the bug fix here, not really caring about it, to protect his Elect Cross. And I think it's not a huge deal for him, because the damage lost through the HP bug does not count towards your opponent's damage judge. Ooh, doesn't manage to dodge that charge shot though, that charge tackle.
Ooh, is that
Now,
nice? The Elements Man was basically the perfect answer he was looking for, and he is looking at that slow gauge thinking how much advantage he wants to try to get out of this slash cross turn.
ooh, and this is a little bit risky.
Ooh, that's rough. Though he might be able to get a D-cross now. Let's see if he decides to go for it. Okay, so he goes for the safer play, just changing the whole field into wood, trying to remove that sanctuary. And he does drop that slow gauge though. Ooh, it's both charge shots as 2x, and that fast gauge gets dropped from Pablo.
Yeah, this is maybe not the best situation for Symes here, because this is now going to be fast gauge turns,
Yeah.
and he's already thrown his first slow gauge, so he has no way of changing the gauge back to slow gauge. So Pablo has already won the gauge battle here, maybe without even knowing it.
Yeah, I mean, from Pablo's point of view, he will probably take another fast gauge into the stand because he's expecting that reg slow gauge or the other one to be coming out at some point. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. Symes decides to stay in slash cross. He has a bit of defense, but a chain TFC groundman into groundman SP can be very scary. Ooh.
Oh, this will connect and destroy the anti-damage.
This will also allow a free charge hit as well. Ooh, nice smashing from Pablo to be able to avoid that.
Oh, and this stops the grab revenge push effect.
And Sam still has 2 area grabs. He decides to go for one of them and take the anti-navi. But again, this is starting to look a bit scary. There is that Q-Force in hand, though he might be looking for something a bit more to try to confirm it. Instead of going into Beast Out, just going for the big play. Ooh, recovery is coming down from Pablo. The area grab will return the area for Symes and the full cast straight away. Ooh, interesting. So Sam just stays with the anti-navi and he decides to keep that for the um, judge ban. So if a Windrak comes, then he is going to lose this area. But looks like no Windrak is coming and he is holding onto that defense still, waiting for that Grandman SP to come. Ooh, though looks like now Symes is deciding between going into Beast Out or playing in Erase Cross. Obviously going into Erase is the safer play because by now you'd expect Pablo to have at least his Grandman. Ooh, if Symes is able to get that D-Cross, this is going to be really big though.
Yeah, Symes has all these offensive options. Probably doesn't want to sit on the anti-navi anymore.
Okay,
And,
look.
oh,
Nice. And the flash bomb might allow him to connect second charger as well, so this might be game out during this turn. Ah, not quite. But yeah, now Beast Out. Those times does have the option of going for recoveries, which is the safer one, which he is going for. Double Beast Out, so expecting that Q-Force to be coming out from Pablo, and never mind, he has recoveries.
ooh, and the Erase Man misses from Pablo. This is very big for Symes.
Ooh, barely missing out on the second hit for that Tengu Man. Ooh, chip charge, the anti-damage does connect, and now Symes is down to his last 3 chips, and them being in different codes, but they are really big. Deciding between trying to finish it off or going for that life aura. It might be risky trying to go for life aura depending on Pablo. If Pablo has his Windrak still, guess we're going to find out. Ooh, Invis coming out. Q-Force into Windrak does come out, but then not quite enough damage and get done at the end of turn, so that will deny Q-Force, but there is still that Sanctuary. Turn 13, Sanctuary is dropped. This Invis from Pablo is going to run out very soon. And both Beast Outs end now. We're still in turn 14, so Pablo doesn't really want to Beast over until the final turn, though he does know Q-Force is still being held. There it goes, nice. GG's.
Wow, and well played to both players there, but Symes just showing some amazing patience here. Really waiting stuff out, and it's very interesting because Pablo himself is not exactly an impatient player. You can see that he was also trying to play it slow and trying to, especially in his other sets as well, you could see him kind of baiting out his opponent and just waiting for them to go into crosses first, waiting for them to throw out their chips, and just playing reactively. But in this case, both players had the same approach. Symes, I think, kind of adapting to it and bring his own level of patience up and just waiting for his win conditions and waiting for just knowing that Pablo doesn't necessarily have the most pressure and kind of just playing around his win conditions very well. It's just, yeah, I'm impressed by both players here, and just well played.
Yeah, that was really good match. Especially, I think you mentioned it before, but it feels like we don't really see matches played like this. Usually, people try to go for more damage or trying to interrupt the opponent's play instead of. In here, I think this might be a very good match for people to try to look into, maybe learn things from it as well.
Yeah, for sure, it was a very interesting set, and it actually makes me think of, and this is very strange for me to say. It makes me think of some of Salad's sets because we've seen Salad with the nail biters, like against Diago this tournament. But some of Salad's sets against people who are also very reactive players and very patient players, kind of it just makes me think of that as well. So it's not that we don't normally see this type of play. It's that I feel it's rare to see this type of play in Gregar versus Gregar, right?
Yeah,
I think that is an interesting aspect.
But yeah, again, well played to both sides. That was a really fun match to watch through. And now that will conclude our Blood Moon tournament and leaves us with Symes as the new Moon Master. Congratulations, Symes, for winning this tournament and getting the new Moon Master role.
Yeah, I think overall I'm impressed with everyone's play in this tournament, and Symes especially, how he adapted in that final set. Yeah, just well played, and congratulations on winning the tournament.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, so before we end the stream, as promised, it's time for the announcement. So as many people know, we have the BN anniversary coming up very soon now. I believe it's on the 21st of March. So in preparation for that, we will be hosting a special event for the anniversary, which will be our next tournament coming up. So just to briefly give some information, the tournament will be a Blood Moon style tournament. So it will follow the same basic layout with a round robin stage into a bracket stage. The format for it will be standard BN6, so it will be very interesting. I mean, something for me to really watch out for is how people will adapt their play from this tournament, especially seeing how for this one we had our most participation in New Moon so far with 18 players. And yeah, so more information will be coming out soon about the event, and we do have quite a lot of things planned for it, including maybe donation incentives, so keep an eye out. More information will be coming out very soon. And yeah, so this will conclude today's stream. Thank you everyone for watching again, and special shout out for people involved in the production for the stream, so Enduring Grey for making double VODs for this and the previous streams as well, and obviously Salad for organizing and making the stream layout. And yeah, again, shout outs to Nerf and Science. Thank you both for joining today on commentary. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and it was great to commentate and cast these games. And thank you all for watching.
Yeah, thank you all for watching, and obviously a shout out for all the players participating in this tournament, and hopefully we'll see everyone coming up soon into the next week. Alright, thank you everyone again for joining. We'll see you again later. Goodbye!